I've brought up before that I'm extremely concerned about the rising rate of conservative people in the Black community, and I get brushed off often for a few reasons. A, most of the people that I'm naming in these instances are Black femmes, and I think a lot of folks struggle with accepting that Black women are turning on the rest of us in the same way that Black men did in the late 90s to early 2000s. I don't think people are ready to accept that yet. The second thing is in the mid 2000s, like 2010 to 2018, I remember a rising slew of YouTube channels that were about sugar babying. These were women and femmes in their mid 20s to 30s teaching girls, specifically underage girls, how to get money from sex work without it really counting as sex work. And I only recall one of them, and they didn't happen to be a woman of color, but only one of them coming forward to apologize for initiating that pipeline on the digital space for women to get into casualized sex work before they were of age. And the content was targeted towards teens. It was made by people who had a lot of teens following them, and they answered questions about how to get into this work when you're not of age. So by all accounts, this was trafficking. And when I brought up these concerns and said how they have just shifted through different pipelines here on the internet, and what some people may recognize as pink pill, but is going to come off to more of you guys as soft living. I don't think Black women want to hear that this thing that was presented to us as a rescue net or a lifesaver was literally just a conservative pipeline in disguise, but that's quite literally what happened. These are women who are typically middle class, like dead center middle class, convincing other women to get into mild forms of sex work and get in relationships that are completely financially transactional. A lot of their content is targeted towards teens. This has also added to an influx of young women feeling like they need to get cosmetic procedures to keep up with the middle-class housewives who are trying to replicate sex work culture so that they could stop their husbands from going out to have sex with sex workers like prostitutes or escorts. That is what has been happening. The fact that people are trying to get us to rationalize it as not something that's extremely dangerous bothers me, not because there's anything inherently wrong with sex work. There's something wrong with having to convince people to do sex work without telling them that's explicitly what they're getting involved in. That is deceitful. People don't have the opportunity to give informed consent of these type of dynamics, and pretending that 18 to 20-year-old girls know enough about life to see through the lines of what you're saying is so fucked up. It is so irresponsible, and I am so disgusted with how many Black femmes have gotten a $1 or $2 million off of selling us bullshit about giving our bodies up to men who quite literally hate us, who are quite literally passing legislation about killing us from the inside out. We don't have access to proper healthcare. Women's healthcare is underinvested because of the very same men that they're trying to convince us are our one tickets out of financially dissolute situations. And from my specific background, I have never seen a man do anything with money besides make a woman's life worse. And that's rich men and poor men. It is so fucking disrespectful to the legacies of the women who came before us to try to convince young women that we are somehow hurting ourselves or not living up to our potential by deciding to have our autonomy at the forefront of what we want from life. Like, by prioritizing our autonomy, we're just leaving money on the table. We are treating ourselves like playthings in a very, very dangerous game. For those of you guys who are familiar with me, most of my reputation is tied to domestic violence awareness. I have worked in multiple different roles throughout my life, and whether that's managerial or whether that's in having my own business, my own nonprofit, our own charitable work, at the center of all of it is harm against women. And it is so disheartening to see that statistic over and over and over again, that financial dependence on men is one of the number one indicators of domestic violence in the country, in the United States. And for at this that same time in which this number is so prevalent, it is so jarring when I'm telling you it's upwards of 80% of women in a test area. I believe this was in the eastern United States, northeastern United States. Upwards of 80% of the women in that test sample were victims of financial abuse. Actively, not like in the past, actively. And so at that very same time, to try to convince women that like there's no other way to like get forward in life, it's one thing to know that people have to make this decision because they don't have any other choices. It's a lot different to convince girls who do have other opportunities, who do have either the mental or the physical capacity to pursue other routes, that they're not being ambitious enough because they're not participating in sex work. I don't understand how these middle class, upper middle class fucking women, and we're gonna get into how classism is so prevalent in the Black community and why Black poor people, we have been being pulled around by our necks on these little ropes by rich Black people for hundreds of years, and them convincing us that this thing is going to be the thing that gets us out of the hood. This is going to be the thing that gets us out of the hood. This is going to be the thing. And then every time we follow that path, we lead into destruction. We need to stop believing that our allyships is of people, Black people of means. We need to be a lot more critical with who we accept into our community spaces that are about organizing for the impoverished, because these rich Black folks are not our friends. Like, I need y'all to be so for real. These rich Black people don't give a fuck about you, bro. They never have. They never did, bro. Half of this fucking charitable shit that you think they're on, they're doing it for tax cuts. They're not the ones who are committed to that. They do not give a fuck about us at all. So seeing them as like these kind of fucking shepherds of the Black community is just, it's not rooted in the reality of how the dynamics work across class and race. And I go back to my point on the amount of dead center or upper middle class Black women who've been convincing very, very poor girls that the only reason we're poor is because we're not putting our pussy out enough. There is not enough pussy you can sell to get out of the kind of poverty that most Black people who are experiencing extreme poverty are coming from. There's just not. You can't pop your pussy out of a fucking war zone. You can't pop your pussy out of a fucking genocidal area. You can't pop your pussy out of an internment camp. This is so fucking white feminism coded, and the fact that they've been trying to feed to us that if we just close our mouths enough, open our legs enough, shut up enough, don't be intimidating enough, wear bright enough colors, wear the right kind of fucking hair, have a nice ass, get fucking lipo, get your fucking teeth done, get your fucking nose done, that you're gonna be able to buy yourself into a man's life, and even if he doesn't care about women, even if he's not genuinely safe, because no man who loves himself wants to be in that kind of relationship. So the pool that you're directing yourself at is already automatically more dangerous. Men who love themselves are not interested in dynamics like those. Men who have extreme insecurity issues, which is what they're saying is the prerequisite to be able to successfully manipulate money out of a man. Do you know how much you waste energetically by trying to go tit for tat, toe to toe for the rest of your life with an insecure man? It is quite literally not worth it. It is, I promise you, because what you're risking is not just being rich or not. You're risking your health. You're risking your nervous system. I beg of you to go back to my last video that it's about dissatisfaction and how dissatisfaction is leading to death in the femme community, but specifically for Black femmes. You're not supposed to have these lackluster experiences consistently with your intimate partner. It will quite literally kill you. So even if we take all the other things that I talked about and how they're using the same fucking pyramid schemes and Ponzi schemes that literal pimps do to ensnare young women into their fucking think tanks or their fucking, what if you want to call it, community. I've done a video on that years ago that people were trying to convince me I'm just seeing all this. That if you want to take all that out, then at the very least acknowledge having to manipulate somebody for the rest of your life is going to cause you so much stress. And stress is the number one killer of women right now. There is no way to do that without putting yourself emotionally and physically at risk.
A lot of you girls are not going to like what I'm about to say. But what a lot of you soft life, wannabe sugar baby, hypergamous type women don't understand is how closely aligned to S work it is, including the risk of danger that comes along with it. Because a lot of y'all have this ideology that a soft life is only synonymous with a man giving it to you. And what happens if you put your soft life in that man's hands? And let's say you're lucky enough to avoid physical danger, you end up facing financial danger at the least. Of course, this is not everyone's situation, but it's a lot. A lot that there's too many cautionary tales. Rest in peace to Ashley Janae, but she seems to be, and if I'm wrong, please forgive me, but she seems to be one of those girls that had that ideology that a soft life, a lot of times it's synonymous with a man coming in and giving it to her. And unfortunately, that ideology may be one of the biggest reasons she's no longer here with us. I always jokingly say, hey, I'm not looking for the man with money. I'm going to be the man with money because I understand the control that I am giving over to another party if I believe that they are the only way I can get a soft life. I don't completely dismiss hypergamy. I understand where it comes from. I understand how the patriarchy makes it something to glamorize. But I think a lot of women are missing the nuance that comes along with desiring, working towards, having the behavior and trying to attract a soft life, especially if the man is the one that's going to give it to them, which 9 times out of 10, that's what they mean. And then what happens is a lot of these soft life girlies, they jump on the femininity train and they start to call other women who are not seeking what they're seeking or who finds problem in what they're doing. They call us masculine. And I'm cool with it. I already had content about how I embrace my masculinity, but it's just how they weaponize the patriarchy against other groups of women. I'm not saying Ashley did this for the people who are slow. I'm just saying it's a lot of women who have that soft life ideology who will throw that back in the faces of women who don't. And if you want to go into depth into this conversation, I just put a video on my YouTube, Lovely Thoughts, where you can take a look at the long form explanation of why this exists and how we need to move away from it. My name is Jay Lovely. I am your accountability coach and ghetto psychologist, and it is my life's purpose to get Black people to mentally unplug from this patriarchal system of white supremacy. Check out all things Living Lovely through the link in my bio or in my description box. Love you guys.
This whole soft life content has quickly turned into a rebranded version of conservatism with a pink bow and a Pilates mat. Because why every time I get on my page, there is someone on here trying to tell me how to find a rich husband or telling me how they want to be a stay at home wife, a stay at home mom, a stay at home girlfriend, a stay at home. It's like y'all clearly don't know why women were marching in the 40s and 50s and 60s in this month. Every year in March, y'all clearly are unaware of why tying your economic status to a man has never worked for women. And there is nothing wrong with saying that you desire to be taken care of or that you desire somebody with financial stability. I think most people want that. But the issue lies in when y'all are wanting a man to be your substitution for a degree and a career. Especially because you have all these young, impressionable girls on this app watching and following this content who now believe that having a man should be their financial plan. I need y'all to wake it up immediately because our rights continuously under attack under this administration. And these little soft life agendas that y'all are pushing don't do nothing but help them.